Record that I remember is the Bruce Springsteen Born in the USA. My parents had a tape of it and seeing his butt on there and liking that song, Born in the USA. That's kind of the first record I remember. When I was growing up in South Dakota, like, you know, there wasn't that many there were no female fronted bands, and I think I kind of felt like I had to play something in order to get up on stage. Like I couldn't just like be a front person, so I was like, okay, I'll do this, I'll play this guitar, and I don't know, I kind of like it, and then I also kind of want to totally defile it, like while I have it, like I want to just slam into it and break it and fuck around with it, just kind of be like, you don't need this, this is like this symbol of rock and roll that's kind of dumb. I don't know if I'm a good guitarist. I think I'm like a physical guitarist and probably like kind of an interesting guitarist to watch. But like if you're like, okay, you know, I can't play scales really, like I don't even try, like I don't practice. You know, to me, I get off on making things different a bit. And to me, you know, music for me is like, right now it's kind of like the dominant art form that maybe like painting was 100 years ago. And when people would innovate with painting, you know, they'd be like, no, the world looks like this now. The world, you know, we're talking about modernism, we're talking about, you know, machines, we're talking about, you know, so painting is going to look different, our representation of the world is going to look different. And so now, you know, music is kind of, you know, who knows any painters anymore, but music is kind of taken over for that. And so, you know, how does music sound now based on what the world, what's happening in the world, what's happening with technology, what's happening with, you know, globalization and the way we connect and all these things. But a lot of people just really have to rewrite Louie Louie for their generation over and over again too, so. For somebody who didn't have access to, like, you know, a record deal budget for some of the first stuff I was making or whatever, to have like a computer and be able to make, and, you know, not knowing what to do, but just self-teaching, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, there's still something to be said about evidence of work, you know, because it's very easy to just kind of make something very simply now, and it's the same thing with like getting goods that are, you know, from China or something that are very cheap, and they, you know, what's the point of paying a lot for like a handmade item, handcrafted item from, you know, an artisan or anything, you know, when it's more expensive. And it's just kind of like that. Well, it's like, well, there's still something that's worth paying for with that because it's evidence of work and evidence of things you put in. But now all music is like either free or it's the same price, and you still want there to be a point of putting in a lot of love and care into something. I mean, I think what's probably going to happen, and we're already seeing it happening, is people are going to have to pair up with more, people are selling attention now, you know, and that's the sort of thing people feel like they can, even if they don't buy your stuff, they're paying you an attention. They're like, oh, I bothered to listen to you, aren't you happy, you know, but that makes attention into the thing that's being sold, and then the only thing that can be sold to is, you know, is advertisers. And so, you know, you're going to see a lot more people partnering up with brands and things because there's no other way to get paid. And, you know, people are a lot of times more willing to buy a pair of shoes than they are willing to buy a record. And some people don't like that, but the only people that can really bitch about it are people that have never downloaded a record, you know, or something. So I see that as kind of another inevitability. And I don't know what's going to happen when kind of people are going to run out of attention, because there's also just so much attention you can sell. I mean, I came from a place where that seemed absolutely insane and ridiculous, and, you know, I think like from the 90s and from like a punk rock perspective, it was still possible to sell your records, and so it seemed greedy to take anything more. And now it's just kind of like, I don't know, there's such a fine line, 'cause there's so many like kind of really disgusting things that happen with songs and commercials. But, you know, as I said, people expect things for free now, and they're willing to part with their attention in order to get with it, but they have this idea that their attention is the thing that is of value. It's hard to say because I don't write things that I think, I would be shocked, you know, if they end up in a cell phone ad or something, because they're kind of weird. But it's hard, yeah, I mean, I think it's just I don't think anyone likes the idea, but I don't know how, you know, the one thing that you just hope is that you aren't like, oh, my catchiest song just netted me 10 grand, and then you just kind of hope that that doesn't just stick in your mind for the next record of like, oh, this would sound really good, you know, in the background of a, you know, car commercial or whatever. I think geography, like the places where I'm at, like when I made the Gowns record, you know, it was kind of a lot about South Dakota, and so it had these kind of like big, huge drones that were there that kind of remind me of what the geography of the plains looks like. Because it's just, you can see for miles and miles and miles and miles, there's no one around, and then there'd be these crazy storms. So it's huge, big, thick drones and static. And there's a couple things, you know, on the new record, like Angelo, which isn't on the record, but, you know, and Milkman, and that kind of came from living in Oakland for a while, and that was the first time that, like, hip-hop ever made sense to me, was after I lived in Oakland, and I was like, oh, I'll try some beats out here. And now I live in Portland, so I don't know, maybe you'll get like some little like strummy, I don't know. I like to kind of, you kind of let your mind be really free, at least for me. Like I want to try and get in a spot where something will just kind of come like into a little hole in my skull and come out. And then I like it, sometimes I like it when you have to get in like a really fucked up situation, and show-wise, I mean, not, and other ways, but you know, and so then you're kind of forced to improvise with something. And that's something that I've kind of been missing, because I feel like with more expectation of people seeing me and knowing my music, I feel like I have more expectation of playing the songs. And so I have less kind of like, oh, I'm playing in a noise basement and there are 6 people here and I can do whatever I want. And then you write a lot of stuff like that, I think, actually. I don't know, it's weird because a lot of these songs that I've been doing have just like, I haven't had to sit down. You know, now I'm gonna have to go like sit down and try and like write a record, and I don't know how to do that. I don't really know how to do that. So that's a little intimidating.